There can be no spiritual growth without solitude. There are those who shrink from too close a scrutiny of themselves, who dread too complete a self-revelation, and who fear that solitude would leave them alone with their thoughts and call up before their mental vision the wrath of their desires. And so they go where the din of pleasure is loudest, and where the reproving voice of truth is drowned. But he who loves truth, who desires and seeks wisdom, will be much alone. He will seek the fullest, clearest revelation of himself, will avoid the haunts of frivolity and noise, and will go where the sweet, tender voice of the Spirit of Truth can speak within him and be heard. Men go after much company and seek out new excitements, but they are not acquainted with peace. In diverse paths of pleasure they search for happiness, but they do not come to rest. Through diverse ways of laughter and feverish delirium they wander after gladness and life, but their tears are many and grievous, and they do not escape death. Drifting upon the ocean of life in search of selfish indulgences, men are caught in its storms, and only after many tempests and much privation do they fly to the rock of refuge, which rests in the deep silence of their own being. While a man is absorbed in outward activities, he is giving out his energies and is becoming spiritually weaker, and in order to retain his moral vigor, he must resort to solitary meditation. So needful is this that he who neglects it loses or does not attain the right knowledge of life, nor does he comprehend and overcome those most deeply rooted and subtlest of sins, which appear like virtues deceiving the elect, and to which all but the truly wise succumb. True dignity abides with him alone, who in the silent hour of inward thought can still suspect and still revere himself in lowliness of heart. He who lives without ceasing in outward excitement lives most in disappointments and griefs. Where the sounds of pleasure are greatest, heart emptiness is the keenest and deepest. He also, whose whole life, even if not one of lust for pleasure, is centered in outward works, who deals only with the changing panorama of visible things, never falling back, in solitude, upon the inner and invisible world of permanent being, such a man does not attain knowledge and wisdom, but remains empty. He cannot aid the world, cannot feed it aspirations, for he has no food to offer it, his spiritual store being empty. But he who courts solitude in order to search for the truth of things, who subdues his senses and makes quiet his desires, such a man is daily attaining knowledge and wisdom. He becomes filled with the Spirit of Truth. He can aid the world, for his spiritual store is full and is kept well replenished. While a man is absorbed in the contemplation of inward realities, he is receiving knowledge and power. He opens himself, like a flower, to the universal light of truth, and receives and drinks in its life-imparting rays. He also goes to the eternal foundation of knowledge, and quenches his thirst in its inspiring waters. Such a man gains, in 1 hour of concentrated thought, more essential knowledge than a whole year's reading could impart. Being is infinite, and knowledge is illimitable, and its source inexhaustible, and he who draws upon the innermost depths of his being drinks from the spring of divine wisdom, which can never run dry, and quaffs the waters of immortality. It is this habitual association with the deep realities of being, this continual drinking in of the water of life in its perennial source, that constitutes genius. The resources of genius are inexhaustible because they are drawn from the original and universal source, and for the same reason the works of genius are ever new and fresh. The more a genius gives out, the fuller he becomes. With the accomplishment of every work, his mind extends and expands, reaches out more vastly, and sees wider and ever wider ranges of power. The genius is inspired. He He has bridged the gulf between the finite and the infinite. He needs no secondary aids, but draws from that universal spring which is the source of every noble work. The difference between a genius and an ordinary man is this: the one lives in inward realities, the other in outward appearances. The one goes after pleasure, the other after wisdom. The one relies on books, the other relies upon his own being. Book learning is good when its true place is understood, but is not the source of wisdom. The source of wisdom is in life itself, and is comprehended by effort, practice, and experience. Books give information, but they cannot bestow knowledge. They can simulate, but cannot accomplish. You must put forth effort and achieve for yourself. The man who relies entirely upon books and does not go to the silent resources within himself is superficial and becomes rapidly exhausted. He is uninspired, though he may be extremely clever, for he soon reaches the end of his stock of information, and so becomes void and repetitious. His work lacks the sweet spontaneity of life and ever-renewed freshness of inspiration. Such a man has cut himself off from the infinite supply and deals not with life itself, but with dead or decaying appearances. Information is limited, knowledge is boundless.